it's a journey. And journey is the destination on this path. And you need a vehicle. And once you go on the journey and you are going on the destination, there comes a point when you don't need the vehicle.
Hi, my name is Yana. Thank you for watching. This episode starts with an audio introduction and continues with the video content. So remember to watch it until the end. And subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, share with friends. Thank you for being here and listening to timeless teachings. What does spirituality and science have in common? What are the benefits of meditation from a scientific point of view? How can mindfulness improve your health and overall well-being? Our guest today answers these and other questions. Dr. Shailendra Bajpai is a physician trained in medicine and diabetes with a deep interest in holistic approach to health and wellness. He is also a mindfulness and meditation practitioner and a coach. Shailendra speaks on a variety of topics, including spirituality and science, finding your meaning and purpose in everyday life, mindfulness on the go, and managing uncertainty. Welcome to the Timeless Teachings podcast. My name is Yana, and I'm your guide into the world of spirituality, mysticism, and consciousness. We release new episodes every Monday in the form of interviews, teachings, and meditations. Stay tuned and let's dive deep. Shailendra, thank you for joining us today for the interview. It is a pleasure to have you here. And I would like to start our conversation with a personal question about your own meditation practice. What it is that you
Thank you very
do?
much, Yana. Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Yana. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. Very interesting, I have been in and out, I must confess that. So as a student, when I was in the later years of my school and preparing for my pre-med, I went into yoga nidra, and a lot of practices and all. And I could really actually clear my pre-medical entrance, which was pretty tough those days, through use auto-suggestion during my yoga nidra and all. And then, of course, I did a lot of practice, like it was like an hour a day, a little more than that sometimes. I was also doing it for my friends and the folks in the society, in the community. And then, during my med school and all, there was a kind of a lull or something. I got a little deprioritized, I must also confess. But for the last many years, when I got it back to it, and it's so addictive. Because this now I understand better about the science, the spirituality, how does it connect to the philosophy, history, so-called mysticism, mythology, and everything else, what you can relate to. So when you connect the dots and we have solid science backing it, and when you experience yourself the benefits day in, day out, and in my patients and in my friends, family, and everyone else, it's amazing. So now I'm onto it. I'm a big fan of mindfulness on the go, and that's what I'm going to do. In fact, I have recently been tasked on some 2 global projects for mental health. So I'm so very happy that I can share this joy with everyone.
Yes. I love how you say that we can connect the dots, right? So let's do exactly that. So let's connect the dots between spirituality and science and give people a little bit more understanding of how actually practical mystical practices can be. So if we talk about meditation, how can we add a scientific foundation to that? So what is meditation and how does it actually affect our body?
Wonderful question. So, Yana, let me start. This is something very close to my heart. Let me tell you something. In spirituality, what I say usually is that you have to believe to see this. Whereas in science, you have to see to believe it.
I love that.
But and how do you connect? Because, science is not separate from, for that matter, even religion, I would say. It's a code of conduct and practices. It's just about being a good human in a coexisting world. So how do we connect spirituality? So what is spirituality basically? Spirituality is being your default setting, being a human, and it's about being. It's not about doing. So when you talk about human being, what does being means? being is our default status. As when we are born, when you look at the young kid, they're so full of joy, bubbly all the time. They don't judge. They just enjoy the present moment. And then we get trained and learn and education and all, and things get lost, right? Mm-hmm. So spirituality is all about experiencing the joy of being. So when you want to see this, sometimes I see that the 300 over languages in the world are not enough to express your feeling, emotions, and the joy. I must tell you that. But once you practice it, and the fountain of joy which overrides that's amazing. It can be addictive. So in the background, what is happening? In fact, there have been tons of data, literature, evidence-based medicine. They have done a mapping of the structure and changes in the function of the brain. And what they have found through SPECT, MRI imaging, and also different scores on psychological scales, they realized that it causes certain changes in the brain, known as neuroplasticity, but it also causes a reflection and changes in the internal milieu or the metabolism of the body. Let me put it simply. So some structures in the brain, they become more stronger, like the cortex, the prefrontal lobe, the left parietal. It has some effect on the thalamus. So the areas related to relationship, logic, memory, cognition, planning, including financial planning, everything goes much better. So the executive function as well as the emotional functions, they all improve. And then what is the negative side of it? Meaning, what are the negative benefits in a way? The seat of fear, depression, pain, anxiety that shrinks in the size. And you can actually see it when you do the imaging. And of course, you can measure it through several parameters, scales and all. What else? When you look into the neurohormonal side of it, it changes your regulatory hormones and the immune systems which circulate in the body and the blood, which regulate your blood pressure, sugars, your immune function, how do you fight infection, and a lot of other things. So it improves and increases the level of the feel-good hormones, and it decreases the level of the counter-regulatory or the feel-bad hormones and the substances which damage the tissue, which produce sadness and anxiety. So it improves the number of the cells. Even in the data is as strong as even in the patients with cancers and all. There are tons of data on MBSR, on mind-body effect and relationship and those kind of things. So that is what it is. And then, of course, you can do it on a longitudinal basis to see the benefits. And there are different models to measure it. And one of the Tibetan Buddhist monk, it's not Tibetan, he's a French by origin, and then he took up to this. Now he lives in his hermitage. And this guy is supposed to be the happiest person in the world. And with all the electrodes and all that beautiful picture. And you can actually measure the changes in the structure and the function. That's how amazing it is.
Wow, this is amazing. It truly is. And you also, so from my understanding, basically, even science proves that when we do regular meditation, it helps to improve health, relationships, and maybe even make more money. This is amazing.
Oh, yes, absolutely. More girlfriends, more money.
I like that. Okay, that's a good one. Okay. So, and you also mentioned about your patients, right? Because you do work with people, and I mean, you're a doctor by training. So, do you introduce mindfulness and meditation as part of the practices when you advise people on health?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, none of the things goes without me doing a check-in about their mental health. And that includes if they are grounding, they are having a downtime, if they have nothing to do in their to-do list for that matter. So I advise them how to do this and what to do this. So for example, because I'm trained in medicine, diabetes, so in chronic disorders. So my favorite talk in the community is living with diabetes. So my title is Mindful Living with Diabetes. So it's a very mix of science, some handy tips and tools. A big part of this is about being conscious, being mindful about your nutrition. And when I say nutrition, it's not about what you eat from your mouth and hands and on the plate. It's all about what you consume through all your senses, the social media, what you read, the television, your interactions, and all the so-called pleasures which you consume, and then giving them a perspective about how mindfulness and meditation can benefit. And I can tell you that most of my patients and the community talks, people have found immense benefit in changing habits, getting off addiction, replacing bad habits with the good habits. And that results in benefits like losing weight, getting better sugar control, better blood pressure and cholesterol control. And of course, being very, very productive, focused, and more effective at work, in relationships, and everywhere else. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Wow, wow, wow. I just had a conversation with actually Tibetan Lama yesterday. And it's interesting that he kind of said similar things what you're saying right now about addiction and senses. It's exactly what we're talking about, right? That as human beings, we have, 5 major senses. Some could say we have the 6th sense, but let's stay practical today. So we have 5 senses. Everything what you can see, you can hear, you can touch, you can smell, and you can taste, right?
The miracles of life, so-called miracles, but yes.
Exactly. So those are our senses. And it was interesting that also he was just saying that from a spiritual point of view, people often get trapped, exactly what you said, in a pleasure and feeling good type of desires when it comes to the 5 senses, right? So, and this is where even like, let's say diseases come in from this. Like, for example, what is obesity? So usually, if we don't talk about maybe some biological dysfunction from the beginning, a person can also be born, right, with something which prompts him to maybe just be obese. But for most people, it's just eating too much food. So why are we eating too much food? People eat too much food usually because they have stress, right? It's like they're trying to suppress the stress or trauma or fear. So it becomes an addiction.
Exactly.
And then because they cannot stop, it's what you said, maybe there's not enough mindfulness in this and not enough consciousness and what are you doing and how are you doing, then it eventually leads to diseases. And it's pretty much with everything else what you said, like including social media or any other distractions. It's a constant information that comes to us through our 5 senses. And usually the way how the human mind works, we want to keep what makes us feel good and we want to push away what makes us feel bad. However, what is interesting, again, from a spiritual point of view, both are traps.
Absolutely. I know what I exactly know what you mean. Yeah.
Yes. So, and so I was just reflecting when you said about the 5 senses and also then how the meditation affects the 5 senses. And again, from my own experience, what I have seen with other people, when we do regular meditation, basically what it does, it gives us mastery over our own 5 senses, which creates then that space. And let's say if we talk about simple things like food, for example, again, right? So, and it gives that space to make a decision whether you want to have more food or not. And it gives you space to check in with your body whether actually you satisfied your hunger already and you should stop right now, right? And whatever is in front of you, you say, okay, I had enough. So I feel that, again, meditation helps with those things. So another question that I would like to ask you is, what is actually your own understanding of consciousness? Like if you were able to describe it, right? So what would you say, Shailendra?
Amazing. So Yana, let me take a step back and I will get into this just as a background. You made a very good comment about, both are traps. Sometimes, so we have an identity of self and we have an ego, what we call as, and, different people understand ego very differently, but this is what it is. So basically, when we try to actually switch over from a doing perspective to a being one, sometimes we still get into the ego trap of spirituality. So don't try these practices and wear spirituality as a badge to satisfy your ego. That is the trap. And I'll stop here on that because that's another topic, a big one. Coming back to your point of consciousness. So
hold on. This is a very important topic. So now let's just a few words since you touched on this. It's a very important one because what you're saying that there's a difference between the practical ego and spiritual ego. Right? That's what you were saying, that there are people in the society often, let's say, who maybe don't do any practices and not on the spiritual path, But then sometimes we have this same, for most of us actually, the same egoic desire to go into spirituality and say, okay, now I'm going to master meditation. Now I'm going to achieve enlightenment. I'm going to do this. It is a goal that I'm going to fulfill, right? Which kills the entire idea of the practice and why we are doing this. So I feel that you're referring to that. You're referring to that kind of spiritual ego.
Exactly.
To be very clear, right? Let's say if you start doing meditation, even meditation, why are you actually doing that? And of course, for most people, and also what I have seen with this variety of apps, like there's so many meditation apps right now. People can choose all kinds of things, right? They can listen to. But what is actually the intention? And let's be tricky here, because it's a really tricky one. So I know
exactly.
that for most people, and I definitely have been one of those when I started, that we go we go into meditation because I want to feel better, because there's something with me that I want either fix, right, or transcend, or maybe let go of my fears. So it's all about me. And it's interesting for me when I watch, what is available again right now, like in a modern spiritual market, actually majority of products that are offered of any sort, it's to satisfy that I that wants to get better. However, after just spending all the time with spiritual teachers, and right, that I have this link with the Tibetan culture for some reason. I guess my karma this way. So speaking with all those lamas and monks, to me personally, as a person who comes from the society, that is actually a big aha moment when one of the lamas asked me one day, so why are you meditating? Like, why are you doing it? And I was like, well, because I want to feel better. I want to achieve enlightenment. I want to do all those things. And he looked at me and he said, you should just stop. Just stop right now. He's like, before it's too late, because your intention is not in the right place. And I remember I looked at him with my jaw literally dropped. I was like, I don't understand, right? I'm trying to do the right thing. And I have a good intention. I want to get better. And he was like, yeah, that's the problem. You want to get better for yourself. This is not the reason why you should go into spirituality. And we had a really long conversation about that. And I remember him telling you, this is you people in the society, especially Western people. This is your problem. You go right, and you go into spirituality, like you go into business. You want to achieve something for yourself. This is not the purpose of why you're doing it. And I remember that pretty much turned my entire world around and turned my practice in an entirely different direction. And it was like door open, for the journey. So I just feel what you shared, it's exactly that.
Absolutely, Yana. Since we're talking about it, I think so. There are a couple of points I should put on the table for us. One is that it's a journey, and journey is the destination on this path, and you need a vehicle. And once you go on the journey and you are going on the destination, there comes a point when you don't need the vehicle. You take the vehicle away because you have arrived, so-called arrived. Okay, let me simplify this thing. So what I'm trying to tell you is that everyone has to go through this cycle. So I'm very happy and not ashamed. I'm very conscious that I had gone through this. So the moment you become aware, it's gone. That's enlightenment. What is enlightenment? Enlightenment is simply giving away everything. It doesn't define you. It's being yourself. It's just being yourself. It's your default setting. Enlightenment is not achieving something. It's where you reach by letting go on the journey. And remember, it's a journey. You might need a vehicle. You might need a guide map. It's a Google map or Guru or, your compass or whatever. That's fine because that's the purpose. And then you transcend this. You have milestones and you have pit stops to look back, reflect upon, as you had and I had the similar moments of truth. And that is the point when you hammer and you break open the ego and the heart and you come out. And when I say you again, that's another trap. So basically, this is a moment when you open up everything, let go, and it's about unbecoming not in that terms in the English literature, but unbecoming of who you are not. That is the point when you lose your identity and sense of self. And then you transcend into that one consciousness, awareness. So it's a journey, takes time. Some of us have been very lucky to have gurus and people and mentor around us who have given us reflections and given us tools and the tips and the tricks. So some journeys are, I would say, much faster that way. But everyone takes its own sweet time, and that's fine as long as you are following your path. So the intention of arrival is that when you arrive, who you are. I mean, you arrive there with nothing. So the journey is about becoming nobody, achieving nothing, going nowhere, and uniting with the one consciousness, which is there because we are stardust, right? So when you look at this marvelous, everything around you, whether the living, non-living, animate, inanimate, and or something, that tells you about the glory, the beauty, and the grace of whatever you believe in, the universe, God, Almighty, any force, energy. This is what it is, and it's so humbling experience. Oh, I'm a part of this grandeur of this grand scheme of things. This is what I am. So we are all divine that way. We are all unique. We have our own path. There are no copycats. God doesn't make copycats. Universe doesn't make copycats. No duplicates, triplicates. Everyone is unique. So we have our own pathway of going through it. Some go through the watering hole, some go through the prison cell, some go through life, some go through relationships, some go through addiction, some go through financial crisis, some go through job loss. These are all situations. The moment you have people, someone who telling you that every person and every situation is here, is your guru. Is trying to teach you something. Hold on, take a breath, give yourself time, and that's where mindfulness meditation comes in. What is it trying to teach me? So once you change the perspective to look at the other side of the coin, that's wisdom. That's the pragya, as we call it. If you develop that, and it doesn't come overnight, you have to practice it. And sometimes, I don't delve too much into religion because my definition and philosophy of religion is entirely different. But then I came across this beautiful saying, and I am very happy to share that in a way because religion is for them who are afraid of going to hell, and spirituality is for those who have already been there.
This is good. So
I
true.
can relate to it, right?
Yes, this is so good. Reminds me of the another saying, which I also like very much, that every sinner has a future and every saint has a past. Right?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Exactly
It's amazing. And I saw this. I was looking into some of this thing, and I put that as one of my status yesterday. The one you are looking at me is not the same me. I put back my pieces differently. How beautiful.
Yes.
Amazing.
I love that.
This is what transformation. That is what transformation is. You have to go through it. And I can tell you that. I mean, when we talk about mindfulness and meditation, most people, and being a little pragmatic, it comes to people as a practice to do things. No. For me, I tell them that it's about doing nothing. Getting everything by doing nothing. The only way is meditation, being mindful. Getting everything by doing nothing. And then you have to qualify what nothing means.
So let's qualify what nothing means for people, right? So that they understand what is nothing.
Absolutely. So this is basically not getting entrapped into your senses and the trap of pleasure and the so-called, allow me to say this, happiness, because joy is not equivalent to happiness. The pleasure gives the momentary pleasure, and the senses, that's what give you that gives you happiness or something. It can be a trap, it can be an illusion. The eternal joy is free flowing, and you have to reach there by experiencing and going through your journey. Most of us have gone through a lot of pain and a bit of, or maybe more of suffering. Is it necessary? Maybe yes, maybe not. Like Buddha, when he came back to his home. Yes, it is necessary, both the pain and the suffering, unless you realize it is not necessary anymore. So it's a journey. So basically, on the pragmatic side, when we go through it, we should give ourselves the permission to accept that I am on a path. It's not happening tomorrow. I'm going to experience it. And I tell my people and the patients and in some of the programs, the same thing. If you're getting angry, if you're getting fearful, leave that moment. The only way in is the way out. The only way out is the way in. I'm sorry. The only way out is the way in. Why we say this? The says that you go through it, you experience the emotions, the feeling, the pain or the pleasure or something like that. And a moment comes, you gradually become detached. You create a chasm, you create a space between your thoughts and the feeling and the emotion. Then you develop this observance and the sakshi bhav. So you are an observer. You're no more a doer. Problem is that we become a doer all the time. It's in my hands. I'm going to shape up my life. These are my plans. Oh, universe is not obliged to follow your plans. Who said that? Come on. Didn't you try? Tell me how many times you succeeded. You tried, right? And no one no one
let's just think about 2020, right? Everyone had plans and none of that worked.
Exactly. So the thing is that I think observance is important, and the feeling of observance. I believe in experiential learning. So you really have to have this kind of conversation. You go through it. You have to have your sweet downtime for reflections. Swadhyaya or self-study is really important because it gives you some points of reference. Not you don't have to believe everything you think and you read or you come across. No, never. But it at least gives you a point of reference because the mind cannot think what it doesn't know. The mind cannot think what it doesn't know. It's strange, but it is true. So you have to have those kind of points of reference for your reflection. And you get lucky by reading, by meeting people, by your own experiences, when you give yourself permission to open your heart, mind, and the soul to understand, oh, yes, I'm going through this. What it's trying to teach me? How is it going to teach me? And then you lose the sense of self. You take away from the doer mentality, from the karta, and then you get into this, oh, everything is this grace and everything is so beautifully planned. Not even a single drop falls without a plan anywhere. This is his plan and you cannot influence it, right? So once you start accepting, acceptance is very important. The problem is that we try to become the master of our destiny, our soul, and how we want to operate the world, how we want to operate me, my family, my kids, my everyone, a relationship, my job, my finances, and everything else. Oh, come on. I'm not saying that we shouldn't plan. There's a difference between them. What you need to think about it, be cognizant is different from, trying to control and overpower because you just cannot. So you have to accept the reality, be in the present moment, and then be an observer, not a doer. You're the observer of it. And with this grace, you're performing certain tasks and the duties. You have a role here in this whole illusion and the Maya. Enjoy the glory, enjoy the show. That's how it reaches to the next level, to the next milestone, to the next destination. So you have your pit stops, you have your moments when you run out of gas, and you have those things. So that's you should humbly accept them. There's no growth without it.
Yeah. Yes. You also mentioned something very important, and I would like us to elaborate a little bit more because people often get confused about that. So this is a very beautiful dance between having a plan and having no plan, right? So people
Absolutely.
tend to go in the extremes. So either I'm going to plan everything and control everything and structure my entire life, and I know where I'm going to study, what kind of job I'm going to do, how much money I'm going to make, when I'm going to marry, how many kids I'm going to have, how much I'm going to pay for my house, and when I'm going to retire, right? This is like an entire social structured life that many people have. And this is one extreme. And then there's another extreme when people go, oh, you know what? I'm just going to go with the flow and see what comes in. And the universe is going to look after me. And I'm going to be in the moment. And then often they struggle to pay the rent or even have the food on the table, right? So this is like, it's another extreme. And I feel it's very important to just talk about that and be very open and honest that it's necessary to find the golden middle, right? We are not talking either one or the other. Structure itself is not bad. Flow itself is not bad. It also structure itself is not good, and flow itself is also not good. It's just what is. And so the mastery is, how do you bring it together when you have enough structure in your life, but not too much, right? So I would be curious to hear your perspective on that.
Wonderful. And, I love and I often quote Gita for that because it's beyond philosophy. This is the magical bullet actually for life. And this was from the eternal times and applicable to everyone, whatever religion or belief system you belong to. And what they say is that because when you're doing something, you have to detach from the results of it. Let me elaborate on this. So the act part of it is only related to that I'm doing this act in the my consciousness to the best of my abilities, understanding, intellect. But then I'm not attaching my outcome to the results I'm achieving, getting out of it. The problem is that there is this disconnect between expectation. So the thing is that it is not easy. You have to really practice it to believe and trust the process, start believing and trusting the process. So there has to be a structure. You have to act. The action is a responsibility because if you follow the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali, then you go through the Yam Asana and then you reach the Samadhi stage. It's a process. It's actually a process. But then what you realize is that you're following certain things and taking action is one of them. You have been blessed with the intellect and the gray matter. You take actions based on your what you see, right? But the moment you have an attachment to the outcome, that's where the problem is. The thing is that give 200%, 100% to your action, but you have to be detached from the result. Let me explain it a bit more because it's still not so simple to understand. What if it doesn't work? Normally, we get carried away by one thought. What if it doesn't work? It's not the end of the world if I did not go to Harvard or John Hopkins. You lose your belief in yourself by saying this to you. You have to accept it. If there is this moment, I'm going to accept it. What is? If it works, it was good for me. If it doesn't work, that's very good for me. I just took a note in my journal before our talk and I was just reflecting and I said, today I'm going to be more grateful for the things that did not materialize than for the things which materialized. It's very profound, and you really have to believe to understand. Kind of go to it. But I am. When I look back, I see, oh, come on, I did not lose anything, but I had this feeling of attachment, this feeling of loss, this fear, this insecurity. So that is the difference between action and the attachment to the karma, the fruits of what we do. So we have to create a divide between them, and we have to start believing, whether through way of religion. Most of the religion actually teach that, by the way. But then if you don't believe in religion, that's absolutely fine. Sometimes better actually. But you have to believe in yourself that I'm doing my best act and I'm hoping for the best. If it doesn't work, that's fine. I will accept it as it is. So expectation is the problem. Acceptance and surrender is the solution. And when I say surrender, what does it mean? It doesn't mean that packing my. I'm going to get my flight ticket below my pillow when I wake up in the morning. No, no, no. That's not the point, right? So this is very important to understand this point, that I am acting here, but I am detached from the fruits, the so-called perceived fruits in my mind, because then you get into a vicious cycle and a trap of pleasure, happiness, results, rewards. And if it doesn't happen, it gives you more misery and a pain. That's the problem. That's where we don't want to get into this. So any cycle which takes us there, where we are attaching to reward, to pleasure, will give you misery. That's for sure. This is also a part of what Lord Krishna said in Gita. But I mean, it's equally applicable. Truth is only one, right? If you believe it, fine. If you don't believe it, it doesn't care about it.
Actually, you're also bringing out a very important point. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about religion and spirituality. And again, I know it's a very tricky one because, of course, there are many people who might be born in a particular family that follows a particular religion. So when you have it since childhood, it becomes a very big part of who you are as an identity, right, of a human being. There are many people who consider themselves to be atheists and they say, I don't believe in anything. So there are many people who kind of somewhere in between and they're hoping from one place to another. And at the same time, there's a lot of still, which I'm actually personally surprised, there's still a lot of confusion in the society about what is spirituality. And many people actually confuse it with religion. And they say that, oh, I don't want to do practices, like I'm not religious. And I always say, well, it has nothing to do with religion. You can believe in, whether you believe in Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, or spirits of the universe,
Absolutely.
right? Or anything else. It has nothing to do. So you can be very religious and not spiritual at all, or you can be very spiritual and not religious at all, or you can be a combination of things. So you just said earlier, like in our conversation, that you have your own understanding, right, of religion, and I assume you have your own understanding of spirituality. So what it is, the way how you see it?
Absolutely. This is, I think, this is one of the holy grails of several practitioners. And as we start talking about it, so I would say when the humankind started, we started with our basics of, at the lower level of existence and what are the basic needs. And as we evolved, we got little interconnected with our peers, with started creating families, change our habits, farming, from hunter-gatherers to when we moved on further down the line. And then there was a need for setting up a code of conduct or a few reference points. I believe it might have been pertinent for those times, and there were scriptures and a lot of things for do's and don'ts. I can tell you that the initial one, when it started, I think this was great. This is still great. Over a period of time, there have been some transformations, some reforms. Some Latin people have tried to refine it, define it their own way, and put it in some scriptures. Either some people call them prophets, and some others or something. That's all fine. All I'm saying is that for me, religion is the common denominator of humanism, of one consciousness. The practices of having unconditional love, being forgiving, having a benevolent life, and asking your heart and your mind before anything, is it right for me? Is it good for myself and for humanity? That's what religion is for me. It's as simple as that. Many religions, they adopted certain rituals, and the idea of ritual was for people to drive people into a certain path. And many of these paths actually led to spirituality. However, over a period of time, for a variety of reasons, and I wouldn't go into that, the rituals remained. They became spoiled. Many of them became, sorry to say that, points of exploitation and whatever. And the spiritual part of it, the where the goal or journey got lost. So for me, religion is simply a basic human code of conduct, which is common for every religion. And we should always remind ourselves, it's not about what religion you practice, it's about who you are. It's about being human. So spirituality is absolutely the basic humanism. And let me take a couple of minutes on where we started on spirituality and science. This is very interesting. I made a point that spirituality is, you have to believe to see this, and science is da da da. That's all good, nice, But I can tell you that science is so well integrated. Albert Einstein has very good. When you talk about all this evolved scientists and other people, or the Rishi Munis or the scholars in the West or in the East, and they always knew it when it comes to the medicine, philosophy, history, technology, engineering, alchemy, metallurgy, whatever you can think of. This was all intermingled, structured. So there was a human way of doing things, knowing yourself and doing what is good for the society. So gelling in with the one consciousness and delivering on that. That is what spirituality is. That's for me. And science, what is science? In science, what do you do is that in science, you start with a doubt, hypothesis, that you call it data gap or hypothesis, and then try to prove it. Sometimes you get lucky, okay? That's why I call as I'm a practicing physician. I mean, I'm not practicing as in practicing today, but as a physician and then as a scientist when I'm sitting in different forums or something like that, I realized that there's so much of imperfection even in medicine and the science. There are only so many things we know, right? So in spirituality, you start with a belief. Here you start with a doubt. Let me put it this way. And you try to prove it. So you're already starting atheist. I have the same question about atheist. They believe in something which they don't believe. Do you get my point?
Yes, I do.
Being an atheist means you believe in something which you don't believe. What a way to look at it, right?
Well, you believe that there is nothing outside of the physicality, pretty much. This is what it means, right?
Yeah.
So you believe still in something, as you said.
You still believe in something, right? You still believe. So for me, spirituality is that one consciousness. It's the glue which unites the universe. And this is how it has been running for millions of years. Take the example, what happened in the last 16, 14, 15 months. Mother Earth, nature, universe doesn't need us, right? It knows how to heal itself. So you better take care of it and behave. That's how I look at it. It's a signal. Come on, guys, fall in line. I don't need you. Huh? Maybe for millions of years and like this. So this is the bottom line. I think people should never confuse. I respect all religions. By the way, I go to places of worship. Sometimes I can enter. Sometimes I cannot be in any which way. Because for me, they are the doorways and the gateways and the facilitators on the path of this. And the people with different belief system come out there. So I respect all of them, honestly, irrespective of what I was born with and what I follow in my personal life. But I would say that at one point of time, when you say you are enlightened, you lose yourself, you become self-conscious, you start getting that kind of awareness. You realize that we are all one. I mean, do we see the religion? I'm sorry, but we still don't, with the blood group and, we still don't write religion. And I did not find a difference in the blood of people of different religion or I'm sorry, don't want to get into that, but that's what it is. Who divided this? The borders, the nations, and come on, resources. Oh, come on. We're all one. So look at the world, how beautiful it is supposed to be. Is it helping? So what we should do, that's what my definition is. So spirituality for me is just being yourself, asking yourself, it's a journey, one consciousness, losing yourself, or it's about the so-called ego we talked about earlier. So you go through this journey, it's fine because you have to go through it. So I will not be ashamed, and I'm not really punishing myself for that, because I was here, I'm a different one. So I respect my past. Why? Because it was my teacher. I respect what I've gone through. I respect my journey of ego, my roller coaster of ego, my badges. I realized they were not necessary. But then there were those milestones. There were those on the journey. So yeah, that is what it is.
Yes, thank you for sharing. I now have been listening to our conversation and would like to start. Let's say maybe if they would like to actually go on a spiritual journey, right? Or maybe would like to try the meditation, and maybe they have more of an analytical, practical, skeptical mind, which is a beautiful mind to have. Right?
Oh yes,
so it's
absolutely.
Because it questions everything. It means that you will find answers eventually. So and
yeah, can I just add here? This is very important. Don't believe Yana or Shailendra here.
Yeah.
Be inquisitive, have your queries, try, experience, learn, and follow your path. This is very important. I can tell you that. Unless you experience it, you're not going to follow it. It's not going to live with you. I can tell you that. Sorry.
Well, you kind of answered the question. I wanted to ask you what would be your advice to those people, but you just said it. So basically keep asking the question, keep being inquisitive and looking for the answers, and eventually you find it. And it's also a common teaching across all religions, actually, and all mystical schools, that when you keep looking, eventually you will either realize it. I'm not saying that you find answers to all questions. I also want to be very honest about it. It's even in my personal journey, I thought that actually this is the end destination when you find answers, right? Because it's how logical mind works. And then later I realized that this is actually not entirely true. You don't find, at least in my experience, you don't find answers to all questions. But what happens is questions dissolve. You stop asking.
Yes.
Right? And that's a very important difference between the two.
That is the point. I just wanted to tell you a small anecdote here. I was speaking in I was speaking in a conference, and this was a big festival here. A lot of people on the line, and it was in Singapore and live. And during the practices, one of the audience asked me, "When I reach this stage, will I be able to levitate?" Beautiful question, right?
Yes, people do ask this.
Yes, I said, when you start on this journey, and when you progress, you won't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. That's exactly it, actually. And that's exactly it. And also, I know like some other people, because again, let's be honest, right? These kind of journeys sometimes do lead to some kind of, gosh, I'm getting a really dangerous topic here, but just a few words. They do lead to some kind of extra abilities being developed, right? And actually, joking aside, there are people in the world who can levitate. I mean, like the monks and the practitioners, I mean, it's not something you do like that up will usually. Okay, let me levitate and show you how to do this. But it is in some way, it could be a byproduct of a particular practice. So now, and then there are all other so-called extra abilities, right? That or people use the word CDs sometimes that might be developed for people who are deeply on a spiritual path. And I think that it is a really important. It's really important to talk about it and to make it clear that the moment that becomes the goal of itself, right? The moment that becomes the reason why you do the practice, you are entirely off the spiritual path.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's actually, I mean, I have very few, in fact, actually only one person right now who I consider to be my teacher and my guru. And I like how he always says that, I mean, it's all wonderful that people, want to have all those things. But this is not the idea why you go into the practice. And actually, when you study with the guru, and this is an entirely different conversation, because I know that people in the society, some are very much pro-guru and some are very much against guru. And there are different gurus also, right? I mean, it's really hard to I mean, it's from like an entire different
point of view
for that. Yes. So, but when you study under the guidance of the person, let me put it this way, who are more realized than you are, then it's always very interesting how this person says that don't pay attention to any sort of things you might be developing along the way, because the moment your mind gets fixated on that, this is it. This is the end of your journey. And I think this is a really important point for us to just say.
Interesting. You know what? I was, when you're saying, I was just thinking aloud, in my mind, and I don't believe everything I think. I try to do that actually, but yes, this one I believe. So, so this was exactly about different facets of spirituality. Science is one. So when you look into the energy and the matter and the transformation and the different dimensions, existence of life on different planets, for that matter, to simplify it, or having dimensions, and if I'm waving my hand, is there someone moving across here or something going around there? So the simplistic way to understand this is, you already said it, that should never be the goal. However, because of one consciousness, and when some people have experienced this, and many people experience this, and those who are under the care of guru and who know how much does it matter, they will realize what happens is that it actually opens up some of your, I would say, your inherent or dormant chakras and some kind of abilities where you can actually kind of telecommute, you can levitate, you can so-called heal, and you can kind of do a Shakti path, which is like, gurus do that sometimes. So these are very enlightened soul, but they use it for the right purpose without an ulterior motive. Let me take a step back, and I have been pondering over it for a while. Thank you, Yana, for getting into this area, and this from my limited understanding and my experience. I can tell you that we are all having intuitive powers, right? We are one consciousness. We are all one. What I do or I don't do, I do it for myself. The moment you have this enlightenment and the vision, you realize everything. You cannot harm, think bad about it. The moment you become in these practices, you become authentic. What is being authentic? thoughts, words, and action, alignment of thoughts, words, and action. You follow the Ashtanga Yoga, Yam Niyam, asana, and go to that state of samadhi through that journey, or you do it just in your daily routine chores, like a family person. That's equally profound, by the way. What you actually reach and attain is nothing but an expression of one human consciousness. That's how I look at it. All of us have that, but we are so bogged down by by what we are not: names, titles, style, teaching, education, do's, don'ts. There's so many things. So you really have to brush it up, clean up, and polish for this to come out. I firmly believe in that. And the people who really do it the right way with some guru, or with some, I'm so happy to hear that you really have a true Sadguru. I can already tell you that. Sorry, I'm no one to say this, but as someone will actually tell you exactly this point. Even in the Tantra was another sect of it. And I know there are different ways of achieving some of these siddhis and sadhanas and all those kind of things. Why do you want to do it? How do you want to do it? When to exercise this? But I can tell you, every single human being is capable of doing it. So you can be on this journey through practice or through different things. Sometimes it is through a Guru Shakti path, or sometimes it could just be that aha moment. And sorry, Anna, I'm exposing the title of one of my books.
Please.
It's the WTF moment. WTF moment. So that is the moment when you suddenly realize, oh, come on, man, what religion was? Oh, this is what it is it is. So when you suddenly get this burst, this fountain, this suddenly comes in. That's the moment when you get some kind of these experiences and all. And you said it rightly. I think most of the enlightened people and all, it's very difficult to handle. That's what I understand from an external perspective. So we have to be very cautious that is not the goal. Never. But on the journey, many people experience it for sure. Yes. In fact, I have seen many people with several of these experiences. Some of them in my very close family, I can tell you. Some of them into a larger circles, and other people. So yes, but that is not at least my goal, and I wouldn't advise anyone to latch onto that, to think of levitating or telecommuting or getting into doing something, stopping the plane. No, sorry.
Let's just be normal. Let's just be normal, grounded, and down to earth. Okay, let's just figure out that. And I think that's probably the most important part. And I feel that's also the essence and the foundation of our conversation today, where we so beautifully just merge together the spirituality and the science, right? And that's the whole idea, where while we are going for the sky and source and whatever is the consciousness people understand, it's also very important to stay really grounded and be really connected with the earth, and be very practical about your life and how you show up in your life. So that's a beautiful balance and a beautiful dance to have. So Shailendra, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure talking with you. And for everyone who has been listening to us, if there are any questions also you want to ask, of course, we always add names of the guests and how you can connect with them. You can just write directly to Shailendra and ask. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna, for the opportunity.
Wow, that was a deep and insightful conversation with Dr. Shailendra Bajpai. Did you enjoy the interview? Feel free to share this episode with friends, subscribe to the podcast, and consider to support us on Patreon. Stay wild and be humble. До встречи!